We're heading to the Big Apple with Manhattan Baby, a frequently overlooked entry from the golden era of Lucio Fulci's filmography. Whether that reputation is justified, however, is another question entirely. The film begins with the Hacker family travelling to Egypt, combining a family holiday with a professional expedition. George Hacker, played by Christopher Connolly, is an archaeologist eager to investigate a newly discovered and seemingly untouched tomb. Meanwhile, his wife Emily, portrayed by Martha Taylor, takes their daughter Susie, played by Brigitte Piccoli, sightseeing through the natural beauty Egypt has to offer. During their outing, Susie encounters an elderly blind woman who hands her a mysterious amulet. At the same time, George is struck blind by an intense blue light whilst exploring the tomb, a location already established as deadly after claiming the life of another explorer with him. Following the incident, the family returns home to New York. What follows is a series of increasingly strange and unexplainable events. Characters falling down lift shafts, figures are seemingly transported to the Egyptian desert, and snakes and scorpions begin appearing throughout the family apartment. Susie and her younger brother Tommy, played by Giovanni Frizzi, discover portals to other realms and begin mysteriously vanishing during the night. As the supernatural occurrences intensify, it becomes clear that something sinister has followed the family back to Manhattan. Desperate for answers, George and Emily seek help from Marchetto, a knowledgeable antique dealer who warns them of the dangers surrounding the amulet and the evil now attached to their family. However, events escalate rapidly. Susie appears before her parents, glowing with an eerie blue light before collapsing unconscious. Through a psychic connection, Marchetto allows George to witness the horrifying visions tormenting his daughter firsthand. Believing he has absorbed the curse himself, Marchetto reassures the family that they are safe, provided the amulet is destroyed. That night, however, he is brutally killed when the taxidermied birds in his shop come to life and attack him. The film closes back in Egypt, where the same blind woman passes the amulet to another young girl, suggesting that the curse will continue indefinitely. Even from its premise alone, it is clear that Manhattan Baby is overflowing with ideas. Yet despite its bizarre imagery and supernatural themes, the film adopts a surprisingly restrained and methodical pace. In many ways it feels like a more accessible, almost family-friendly variation of Fulci's City of the Living Dead and the Beyond era, retaining the atmosphere of the unknown and the director's fascination with surreal death sequences, while lacking the relentless intensity of those films. That restraint is likely one of the main reasons the film remains overshadowed by Fulci's more celebrated work. The slower pacing and noticeable lack of graphic gore may disappoint viewers, expecting the visceral extremity commonly associated with his name. Aside from one or two memorable death scenes, much of the runtime is driven by dialogue and atmosphere, which can make the film feel sluggish at times. The opening act in Egypt is particularly strong, filled with striking visuals and an oppressive sense of dread. But once the story relocates to New York, the momentum begins to falter. The infamous elevator to hell sequence and the film's final death scene remain standout moments and likely account for much of the film's lingering cult appeal. Outside of those sequences, the narrative can occasionally feel like a chore to sit through. That is especially disappointing given how effective the central premise initially appears. One undeniable highlight is the score by longtime Fulci collaborator Fabio Frizzi. The main theme ranks amongst Frizzi's finest work and stands comfortably alongside his most iconic compositions for Fulci's films. However, the soundtrack also heavily reuses cues from Zombie and The Beyond, which can feel distracting and oddly out of place, particularly for first-time viewers. It is difficult not to see this as a missed opportunity, as a fully original score could have significantly strengthened the film's identity. The same bittersweet feeling extends to the wider creative team behind the film. Manhattan Baby represents one of the last occasions when many of Fulci's regular collaborators were still working together consistently, including Dardano Sacchetti and Elisa Briganti, and producer Fabrizio De Angelis. In many ways, the film marks the closing stages of a familiar and beloved era within Fulci's career, making his shortcomings feel even more bittersweet in retrospect. Overall, Manhattan Baby certainly has its moments. The hallmarks of a Fulci production remain present: dreamlike visuals, eerie supernatural concept, memorable music, and recognisable faces both in front and behind the camera. Yet, despite these strengths, the film lacks the cohesion and emotional impact found in his strongest work. With its emphasis on optical effects over gore and its incorporation of classic horror themes rooted in ancient Egyptian mythology, it remains an interesting curiosity, one that is absolutely worth watching, even if it ultimately falls short of greatness. An interesting piece of trivia surrounds the film's American release title, Eye of the Evil Dead, which was clearly designed to capitalise on the success of The Evil Dead by Sam Raimi. Raimi reportedly considered pursuing legal action over the retitling, but abandoned the idea after learning that Fulci himself had little control over the marketing decisions being made during that period of his career. Ironically, the bond between the two filmmakers would come full circle years later, when Raimi's Spider-Man featured a shot directly taken from the Beyond, a fitting connection from one horror legend to another. Here we have the 3-disc Blu-ray limited edition Manhattan Baby by Blue Underground. You get Blu-ray, DVD and compact disc, so CD soundtrack, which is nice. It's quite striking cover art. This is the image I'm most familiar with when it comes to Manhattan Baby. Obviously a nice illustration of Susie, the main girl from the film, and a snake there at the bottom. Possessed eyes, a little bit of blood. Again, quite minimal but quite striking as well. Not the only cover art for the film, but like I said, it's probably the most recognisable one. Yeah, here's the spine. And here's the back. We've got quite a few extras on this. We've got Fulci and I, interview with composer Fabio Frizzi, an hour-long career overview of the soundtrack collaborations of Fabio Frizzi and Lucio Fulci. For the Birds, interview with star Cosimo Cinere. 25 years with Fulci, interview with makeup effects artist Maurizio Trani. Beyond Living Dead, interview with co-writer Dardano Sacchetti. Stephen Throw on Manhattan Baby, interview with the author of Beyond Terror, films of Lucio Fulci. Manhattan Baby Suite, live studio performance by Fabio Frizzi. Theatrical trailer, poster and still gallery. Then you get a bonus collectible booklet featuring new writing by author Troy Howarth. Bonus CD, Manhattan Baby original motion picture soundtrack by Fabio Frizzi. So quite a stacked release. I think the highlight will probably be that Fulci and I, the hour-long conversation with Fabio Frizzi. I think I've briefly checked that out. Obviously, not sat through it all the way just yet, but again, good amount of special features on here. This release is from 2016. The Blu-ray itself is region free, so again, keep that in mind. But yeah, a few still images from the film. Overall, really nice package that Blue Underground's put for Manhattan Baby. We've not actually got a release over in the UK yet, which is kind of crazy to think, considering, like I said, it's from his golden age of horror. You would have thought that this one would have been rushed out at some point, but not yet, sadly. So obviously I had to opt for this release, but I'm glad that I did, because like I said, it is stacked. Here's the booklet. Again, this is the writings of Troy Howarth. So, like I've said before, when you see Troy Howarth's and Stephen Furrow's name on any Fulci related product, then you know you're in for a pretty good time. This looks quite packed, so yeah, definitely worth a read. But here we have the original motion picture soundtrack, the Blu-ray, and then of course the DVD. If I pop the cover out, this is the alternative. Eye of the Evil Dead. Really striking artwork again, same with the Manhattan Baby poster art. I do like this one quite a lot, to be fair. Yeah, it's quite nice actually. So really, whatever cover you go for, you're getting a winner. But I will stick with the Manhattan Baby cover for now. But yeah, like I said, this release is a decade old now, and it's really still the only definitive version of this film. So if you can grab it, I'm sure you probably still can. I don't think it's crazy money, so I would definitely recommend it, because like I said, stacked with special features. Getting the soundtrack is incredible. The main theme itself, one of my favourites from Frizzi in general. So really happy to have that. And like I said in the main part of the review, you're getting music from the Beyond, music from Zombie. So really, you know, you're getting a few iconic tracks from different Fulci films just on that one soundtrack. So yeah, really happy to own that. Like I said, there's not a UK release for this yet. Blue Underground haven't done a 4K upgrade on this. So really, this is your best option. Transfer wise, I can't fault it. I watched the movie in its entirety for the first time. And yeah, transfer was stunning, sound was solid, the colours popped, detail was there. Can't fault it at all really from a technical standpoint. Like I said, I've not really checked out the supplement material, but I'm looking forward to diving into that. Definitely good few hours to sink your teeth into. So yeah, pretty comprehensive. But I kind of alluded to it in the first half of the video. I wasn't overly enamoured by Manhattan Baby, sadly. I mean, I've had the Blu-ray for years, and this is first time watch. You know, I'd heard fairly mixed and negative things about Manhattan Baby over the years. It's not been a must-see Fulci. And of course, I'm glad to have finally watched it. Again, it's not a bad movie whatsoever. It's really well made. A lot of interesting scenes and shots. Some of the imagery at the start of the film in Egypt is stunning. The cinematography throughout is solid. The score, the effects, both optical and practical, I think hold up really well. I know Fulci wanted to pivot more to the optical style of effects for this, and not so much the gore. And yeah, I think it pays off. But again, with it being a Fulci, you go in with, you know, some sort of expectations, especially when it comes to the gore. And this just isn't a big blood fest like some of his other films from this period, you know, which I appreciate, to be honest. Don't need blood and guts in all my films. And Fulci is more than capable of delivering a solid movie without any blood. So, I mean, but it just didn't hold my attention throughout. Like I said, after the first 20 minutes, I was kind of drifting away a little bit. Very dialogue heavy type film, set in the same kind of key locations, the apartment, a few bedrooms, office block, and that's about it really. So I mean, there wasn't much going on. It kind of felt like there was a big chunk of the movie where it kind of just kind of came to a halt. And as I mentioned before, a few nice set pieces, scene with a bloke in a lift, a very familiar face. If you've seen City of Living Dead, Contamination, you've definitely seen the guy. I don't know his name sadly, but he's popped up in a bunch of Italian films over the years, so it's always a pleasure to see him, and he gets a good send off. And you've got Carlo DiMaggio in this again, City of the Living Dead. He has a small role, and yeah, he's got an interesting demise, and again, it's always nice to see him. So yeah, I mean, what it does right, it does right. But like I said, overall, it's just not that, a scare every 5 minutes or something like that. It's a lot slower. It's a lot more methodical in its approach. It's trying to set up the mystery and that world building. And like I said, it does do it well. It just sadly, I wasn't on board all the way through. The first 20 minutes and last 10 minutes really stood out to me, especially the finale with the death of the antique shop owner. That was a great one. Very reminiscent of the tarantula attack in the Beyond, or something like that. So that was a lot of fun. The overall cast, solid. You've got Bob from House by Cemetery in this, dubbed by a different person. Definitely not as infamous as his dubbing in House by Cemetery, but he's a lot of fun. He's great little actor. Pops up at the end of Demons as well, so that's cool. Yeah, the main cast are absolutely fine, no issues. Like I said, it's very competently made, both on camera and behind camera, but just a few, like I said, it just dragged out a little bit, which is a shame. But again, it's not one of Fulci's more beloved films, so I was kind of expecting that going into it, especially from this time period. I mean, coming up hot off the heels of his Gates of Hell trilogy, and then the same year this released, you had New York Ripper, which again is a Manhattan-based horror, and I mean, that is, that's beloved. Considered one of the more favourite of Fulci's films, even from that time period with fans. So, and I can definitely see why. And this one gets left behind. And again, not every film can be a zombie or a Beyond. So sadly, there is going to be a few road bumps along the way. But not at all is this a bad movie. Definitely recommend giving it a watch, seeking it out for yourself. Like I said, I love the Egyptian angle and the mythology behind that, sprinkled along with some standout scenes and a strong opening and a strong finale. Yeah, it's a fine movie. I would like to see this get a UK release at some point. I definitely think it deserves it. I think, you know, I've stated before multiple times, any Fulci film I believe would sell well. And again, this coming from that period of time that is so beloved, yeah, I can't see this having an issue whatsoever. But that's my personal opinion on Manhattan Baby, really. First time watch, glad I watched it, enjoyed it. Just not one of the standouts, sadly. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, if you've seen Manhattan Baby or if you plan to pick up this release. Like I said, if you do, it's region free, so I mean you've got no issues with that. And it's a solid release. Yeah, can't recommend it enough. But yeah, like I said, let me know what you guys think. I hope you enjoyed the video, and have a good day. Take care.